Good morning, everyone. Thanks for coming. It's taken us 31 years to put a name to a body, a John Doe. And on July 7th, 1988, a highway survey crew discovered what appeared to be a shallow grave east of I-94 on 104th Street. The survey crew was working on new Highway Q, basically where Prime Outlets is right now. And the investigation, deputies were sent initially for the investigation. They believed to be bones in a shallow grave of a badly decomposed body. Detectives Zielsdorf and LaPointe responded to the scene of a severely decomposed adult male found in the grave. An autopsy was conducted and determined that the manner of death was a homicide and cause of death was due to strangulation. Partial fingerprints were obtained. The victim's fingerprints were sent to the state crime lab, which was ultimately returned without any identification. Several investigatory tactics, which include letters to various agencies, dental records, conceptualized artist renderings of what the victim was believed to have looked like, the description and circumstances of the investigation were submitted to and countless citizens' tips, all proved to be unsuccessful in identifying the victim. During the initial investigation, a few suspects had been developed, but no arrests were made. It was determined that the body in 1988 was a white male, roughly 40 years old, 5'7" to 5'9", 160 to 200 pounds, partially bald, with a well-trimmed beard and a mustache and a well-maintained teeth and fingernails. He was wearing expensive designer clothes, including a Hermes sports sweater, a Ted Lapidus shirt, and Saks Fifth Avenue underwear. Many hours were spent on this case, but ultimately it went cold on us until recent information and technology helped us to determine that this person was a Robert Lyle Schwartz. He did spend time in several places throughout the country, and I do have more information, but I think the medical examiner, Patrice, is going to be covering most of that right now. So whatever she doesn't cover, I'll follow up with. So I'd like to introduce medical examiner Patty Hall.
Hi everybody, thank you for having me here today. As Sheriff Beth mentioned, the decedent has been identified as Robert Lyle Schwartz with new fingerprint technology that was made available through the FBI in 2017. I was informed by NamUs, which is the National Missing and Unidentified Person System, by our NamUs rep told me about this new fingerprint technology through the FBI. I then worked with our Sheriff's Department in obtaining the fingerprints, and the Wisconsin State Crime Lab then analyzed those prints and made the positive identification of Robert Lyle Schwartz. From there, I had to find next of kin. Next of kin has been located. There was a process into itself to find them with, obviously with having such a common last name, it was difficult, but I did find next of kin. And speaking with next of kin, they did confirm that he went missing in around 1987, 1988, and they never filed a missing persons report on him. They figured with his lifestyle, he was a criminal, that they figured that his lifestyle had caught up with him. So, he did spend, as Sheriff Beth mentioned, he did spend time in prison. The only picture that I have of him alive is his prison photo, his booking photo, and that is the only photograph. I tried getting photographs, and so did the detective. Tried getting photographs from family to no avail. And then, I'm not sure if we
Cover whatever you want.
Okay. So So as I said, family's been located, family's been notified, and we've been working with the Sheriff's Department, with Detective Schreiner, and with the Wisconsin Crime Lab. And that is everything that I can share at this time with you. So, thank you.
All right, a few more things to tie things up. Robert Schwartz had a long criminal history. One of the things that he did is he was selling supposedly silver bullion, and he was sending out worthless paperwork to follow up with this worthless bullion that he was supposedly selling. So family and different things that we've been able to determine, it sounds like, as the medical examiner said, his lifestyle caught up with him. And during the investigation, information of a suspect of Robert was developed. The suspect has since passed away during the investigation, and he is not being identified due to a sealed grand jury investigation. So as far as we're concerned right now, this homicide investigation remains open until we can basically close up the paperwork through different channels. So as far as the suspect in the case, it isn't a sealed case, it's a sealed file, and I cannot share the information that we have. Can we answer any more questions? And also, just so you know, Detective Schreiner, who's standing up here with me, this is one of our young investigators now, and I don't want to say, but we have two old investigators behind us, but they're both retired. They did decades of excellent work here with the Sheriff's Department, with John Sealsdorf and Larry LaPointe, and it's kind of wonderful to have the old and the new in here kind of being part of this whole press release today. Any questions that we can answer for you?
Where was he from, and what was his tie to Kenosha County?
He was from all over. I asked that question this morning and asked for some answers on that one. They come up here with me and asked for some answers, and I was told that he really didn't have a home that from what we can determine, he traveled all over. He actually flew into O'Hare Field that day, and we believe that he was strangled in one of the parking structures at O'Hare and transported up here and buried where Prime Outlets is now.
When I spoke with the family, they had no connection for him to the Chicago area or to Kenosha County.
Okay. Where did he fly from that day? Do you know? If he flew into O'Hare, do you know where he came from?
The family told me that he flew in from the California area.
Okay.
So when was the suspect identified or arrested in this case?
He was never arrested.
Okay.
He died in this whole 31 years. He died, and I can't even tell you how long ago he died. But we're not releasing the name because it is a sealed case.
So was it just recently though that you identified who the suspect was?
It was within the past 2 years because when you have this all coming to light, because first you have to identify the person who died before then you can then further go into the investigation to figure out who did it. So until somebody's identified, then you have no idea how to tie in other people to it.
So the grand jury you're speaking of, is that tied to this case, or that's something completely unrelated? And when was that?
Can't tell you.
You can't even say when it was. There's no grand jury process in Wisconsin, so
Isn't from here.
Okay.
Like I said, we don't believe that Mr. Schwartz has a connection to Kenosha.
Is there a connection to Lake County?
Can't tell you.
Would you describe this guy as a con man? Is that what got him into trouble?
When I spoke with the family, yes, they described him as a con artist.
Go ahead.
Sorry, the mug that you have up there says California prison. Do we know what he was charged with in that shot there, or what the other charges that he had?
Several counts of grand theft. What their terms were. It was several counts of grand theft through California. That's what that mug shot is for. He had some other history prior to that, but that's the day that mugshot was taken was, he did some time in California Institute for Men.
Do you know how much time he served or anything?
Off the top of my head, I'm not
Okay.
exactly sure. It was a few years.
Do you know when he was released from that prison?
I want to say it was mid to late 70s.
Could one of the detectives who was originally on the case just speak to how you're feeling now that this has been solved, he's been identified?
Needless to say, it's very satisfying to know that the case is, for the most part, closed. Obviously, have some loose ends they have to tie up as far as notifications and the sealed court case that's on file. But it's great to know that it's been done. There's been a lot of years that have passed and a lot of work put into the case. So anytime we get a case that's finally closed and you get some identification, it's not only good for us, but it's also good for closure for the family.
Is it difficult for you though, knowing that he was a convict, a con man, that he was identified and all that work that you put in was for somebody who, for all intents and purposes, according to what Sheriff Beth was saying, that his life caught up to him, that he wasn't living life the right way, and now after 30-some years, he's been identified as a con man?
I wouldn't say it was disappointing that way. It was disappointing is that there was no report of a missing person that we could follow up on and maybe bring some closure to this at an earlier date.
All right, one last question?
Is there anybody, can you elaborate on this fingerprint technology? What is that and why is it different than?
The fingerprint technology, I'm not able to elaborate on. I was informed about it through, as I mentioned before, through NamUs. And they had told me about the FBI had this new technology, that they were having good luck with it, with this new type of technology. So those type of questions for the type of technology that they're using now, I would have to defer that to the Wisconsin State Crime Lab or to the FBI to answer that.
And then the cold cases that you have, how many are left? Where do you stand on those? I know that's a focus for you guys.
Yes, right now I am currently working on the 1993 John Doe that was found in Pleasant Prairie, Wisconsin, along the railroad tracks near the state line. So that's one of my most current cases that I am working on for cold cases.
Are you optimistic now after something like this?
I am. I am. It's a lot of work. It's you know, we try our best. There's a lot of footwork, a lot of investigation, but I am hopeful with this case being 31 years old, and then we're able to get that resolved. So I'm hopeful for 1993 John Doe to be also resolved.
Patty, didn't they say like there's 100 solved in a few weeks?
Yes, with the new FBI technology at that time, when I spoke with, in 2017, when I spoke with the NamUs representative, they had 100 positive hits in the 6 weeks with this new fingerprint technology. So, like I said, I'm not sure what exactly, how it's changed to make it better. That'd be a question for the crime lab, but they have been having good luck with that new technology.
How many cold cases are you still left investigating?
That one from 1993.
That's the last one.
Yeah, the one from 1993 is one of my, there's other ones, but that's the most current one that I'm working on.
And when exactly was Robert identified? You knew you had a match. Was it in the last week, the last few months?
Oh, that was in June of 17.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But
So-
there was a lot of investigation that had to go on, working with the sheriff's office, with the crime lab, with our district attorney's office, before we could go forward with everything. So, and finding the next of kin too, that took some time too.
You mentioned that it was really difficult to find the next of kin. How did you ultimately do that?
A lot of Google. a lot of Google.
Could you say, was it a child, a former spouse who you were able to find? What type of relative it was?
A half brother.
Sheriff, if I could just ask you, you say he flew into O'Hare and he was murdered the same day. Did they find the body the same day? What the timeline on that?
Well, I know that the body was badly decomposed, so I'm sure it was probably several weeks or several months before they found the body. So he wasn't found the same day. But yeah, from information I was given, it sounded like he flew into O'Hare, and at least they believe that he was killed in one of the parking structures of O'Hare and brought up here and then buried.
Why do they believe that?
Through the investigations of detectives and people that they were able to talk to, and
Detectives here or else on something else?
I didn't ask that question. It's our detective that basically passed along the information, but exactly where all of his information came from, I don't know that.
Sheriff Beth.
The English Chicago police on this?
Patty, you want? Or
Great question for
Josh,
Josh.
you want to say who you work with?
I believe during the original investigation, you guys had sent some letters out, during the follow-up investigation, no, it was primarily federal agencies.
All right, thank you, everyone. We'll see you at Country Thunder later.
Thank you.
Thank you.